Well, good morning, Kingdom House. We're going to be continuing our discussion in regards to generosity, and we'll pick up from where we left last week. Last week, we acknowledged that one of the terms we hear often, and we may not know what it means, is this idea of first fruits. And first fruits in the Old Testament was a command that the Lord had given to his people when he gave them a land to present the best and the first of their harvest each and every harvest season. And the reason they would do this is out of faith and obedience that God would continue to provide for them for the remainder of that season. So even though they did not know the outcome, they trusted the Lord, and they would bring the crops before the Lord saying, I trust you. And us who are Christians who live under grace and not under the law, we can look to certain principles and say, yes, there's good acts of faith that we can follow and obey and trust the Lord in. And in regards to generosity, one of the best examples that we can see in the New Testament is in the book of 2 Corinthians, specifically 2 Corinthians 8 and 9. And last week we talked about the two examples that Paul gave in 2 Corinthians 8 in regards to generosity, and that's the people of Macedonia who are going through a time of suffering and affliction, but yet even in the midst of their trials, they trusted the Lord and they gave not just according to their means, but above their means. And this was out of obedience to the Lord and to demonstrate the love that they had for the Lord and for his people. And the second example is the example of Jesus, who was in the form of God, and he came down to this earth, took on the form of flesh, and gave his life for us. And Paul says for us that we may be rich. And what those riches he's talking about is the eternal inheritance, this idea that we will spend eternity with God because of Jesus's generosity. He died on the cross for us so that we may spend eternity with him. So after he exhorts and encourages the Corinthians, in 2 Corinthians 9 verse 6, he tells them this: the point is this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. Whoever sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. Each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work. See, I love that, because after he encourages them, he says, look, I don't want you to do it out of some sort of necessity or begrudgingly because I'm asking you to give, right? So I always tell this to our churches: God does not need your money. He doesn't need my money. What God is interested in is our hearts of obedience. This is why Paul says that whoever sows sparingly will reap sparingly, and whoever sows bountifully will reap bountifully. Why? Because God continues to provide. So those who believe and trust that the Lord will provide will continue to give generously. They will live generous lives. So I want us to meditate upon that this week, to think about that. Again, if you do need a good example and say, what does the Bible teach in regards to generosity? Well, a good starting place is 2 Corinthians, specifically chapters 8 and chapters 9. So thank you for joining us. God bless you, church.